This is a response to one of the consistent things we get whenever we talk about vaccinations. This is a follow-up to our previous video, the vaccination scam. And it's just amazing that the standard responses are as dumb as the things I talked about in the previous video. For example, I just talked about the fact that in January that's how old I am, January 2018, we're having a flu epidemic. And the flu vaccine is at best 30% effective. At worst, and a lot of even people who are pro-vaccine are saying it's only about 10% effective. So getting a shot really doesn't make it any better for anybody except the pharmaceutical companies and anyone else getting kickbacks for those shots. The other thing I pointed out is, they say cough into your sleeve and it'll keep you from getting the flu. No, it won't. And anybody with a brain knows that. And here's an example, another example of the mindlessness that's out there. I posted that video, and in the video, go back and watch it if you hadn't seen it. I didn't tell anybody not to get vaccinated. I'm just telling you to think critically. And I don't get vaccinated myself, and we allow people, or we provide people with a notice or a note, a religious exemption if they want it. But we don't even, people can tell you they've come to Bible Believers Fellowship. We don't get up here and preach about this stuff all the time. But what I do tell people, and what I will always tell people, is to not trust human beings and to test what you're told. And so in response to that, this is typical of the kind of things you hear. This guy calls himself Dracopol on Gab. Social media, gab.ai. Get on there if you're not already. He says, talking heads isn't proof of anything. Vaccines are A-OK. I always thought he was joking at first, to be honest with you. He says, an anti-vax tartary must stop. Okay, so that's how they don't answer any point that I made, but they just call it tartary. In other words, retarded. And then he goes on to say, because it is a threat to good health. And what he's getting at, and what all these people act like, is that because I'm not vaccinated, I am somehow a threat to them. That is a scientifically proven falsehood. If your vaccines work, then you can be around all the unvaccinated people you want. And if your vaccines work, we're not a danger to you. You, when you get your vaccine, are a danger to us because you are contagious for at least a few days when you get your flu vaccine. And as a matter of fact, we have a friend who had a very bad ordeal because she's since passed away, but when she was still with us, she had a compromised immune system. She was on dialysis and had all kinds of other health issues. And when someone got the flu vaccine, they were supposed to stay away from her. Her friends and loved ones knew that. And she got around somebody who had gotten a flu vaccine, and then I guess they forgot that she was so sensitive to it and everything. She got the flu, made her almost deathly ill. So the only people who are a danger to anybody are people who get the flu vaccine and then walk around and are contagious. And those of us who don't get the flu vaccine, we're not a danger to you unless you're admitting that your vaccine doesn't really work. And what's amazing is this is an example of what I call the vaxxed sheep, because he is admitting he doesn't trust his flu vaccination. Evidently, he doesn't think it really works. but yet it's somewhere in the back of his mind floating around because he still is promoting the flu vaccination as though it works, while in the same breath admitting it doesn't work. And that's the game they play. You have kids in school, and kids in school are sent home. They're not allowed to go to school in many cases if they don't have their vaccinations, and for things like the measles. And they're told that those unvaccinated children are a danger to the vaccinated children. How is that? Then you're just admitting your measles vaccination doesn't work. You see, that's why I say think critically. This stuff, it just doesn't make any sense, and people say, oh, okay, well, we don't want to be a danger to anybody. You're not a danger to anybody if you're unvaccinated, except yourself. You, according to the vaccination crowd, they could say, well, you're leaving yourself open for the flu. Fine, but that's my right. And they'll say, well, you don't have a right to endanger everybody else. Well, if everybody else has got vaccinated and that vaccine works on the strain that you received a vaccination for, I could get that same strain and you can't get it. Either that or your vaccine doesn't work. It's one or the other. And if it's a strain that you didn't get, it's a strain that wasn't in the vaccine, then all of us are susceptible to it. And if I had gotten vaccinated, it wouldn't protect me or you any better. I know to some of you, this is really deep, and some folks just have trouble, as I say, they have a time with it. But sit down and think this through. And when people say these things to you, stop them and say, wait a minute, that's not true. It doesn't make any sense. The only way I could be a danger to you is if your vaccine doesn't work. Because if it's a strain that your vaccine didn't have in the first place, didn't protect you from in the first place, then you're not protected from anybody, whether it's me or some vaccinated person who gets that strain of the flu. Bottom line, though, is they do not have any answers. Look, these are the kind of things they send you to read. Wikipedia. They'll send you to pharmaceutical companies, websites that are run by people who have a stake in the whole pharmaceutical scam. And if all else fails, they'll call you fat. Why is he so fat, by the way? Should a fat talking head lecture anyone else about good health? Am I fat? I'm a little overweight. I have a chronic disease, and I take steroids. And when I've been on steroids some of the last 3 months, and it causes weight gain. And when I get off the steroids, I always start to take off the weight. And if I could stay off those steroids for a couple of years, I'd get back to my ideal weight. But that's beside the point. Even if I'm fat because I eat hamburgers and milkshakes and inject peanut butter in my veins, it doesn't matter. What's that got to do with your fake, false arguments when it comes to vaccines? That's the issue.